Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath. This morning we would like to thank Yah for his grace towards us. We would like to thank him for the way that he has led us through the week and his directions to us and his breath that he has loaned us. We're thankful. We would like to look at this morning the subject, the remnant seed, refugees. The remnant seed, refugees. As I think of this subject, and as I think of the passage of Revelation chapter 12, I think of ourselves, those of us who have accepted Yeshua, as either asylum seekers or refugees. Ordinarily, an asylum seeker is a person who claims to be a refugee, but whose claim has to be evaluated. Therein, they find themselves in a pensive state of ambivalence, not knowing whether or not they will make it to that state of being a refugee and possibly being a citizen of that country. They apply for asylum on the principle that they cannot return or they cannot live in their homeland for fear of persecution. Yet at this state, they are unable to gain access to the rights that refugees have. And so a person remains an asylum seeker as long as their application is pending. So while not every asylum seeker becomes a recognized refugee, every refugee is at some time classed as an asylum seeker. I think that sums up the way we are. We are living in a world that is at war. And therefore, we are at risk of being persecuted for the very things that we say. And because we have applied for citizenship within the kingdom of Yah through baptism in Yeshua, we are waiting through that judgment to see whether or not we will be given that status. Because the word here, as the sister read in Revelation chapter 12, it says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels, and he prevailed not. And so you see that Satan cannot gain a permanent victory over you. That's why he wears a diadem and not a victory crown. Because even when you're not feeling well today, you know that his attack on you today is only temporary. Because in the morning, when you wake up with a new prayer, Yah's mercies, they are fresh and new every day, and therefore he cannot, this is Satan, get a permanent victory over you. He is a defeated foe. And so Michael and his angels fought against him, and he prevailed not. Neither was there a place found any more in heaven for him. And the great dragon was cast down. Where? The word tells us he was cast down to the earth where we live. That's why we are refugees. That's why we are asylum seekers. That's why we are waiting on our pending application to Yeshua, our advocate, to see whether or not we get this citizenship. But until then, this dragon with his 7 heads is seeking to devour who? The remnant refugees. That's our topic this morning. That this dragon is seeking to devour. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and up on her head a crown of 12 stars. This is the victory crown. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and the pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crown, its diadem upon his heads. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour the child as soon as it was born. Let's hold it there and let's look at what we have just read. And let's examine it so that we may get a fuller understanding of what is going on. We're told that there is a woman who is pregnant, and she is about to be in labor to give birth to a child. But at the same time, there is this dragon who is waiting to devour, to kill the child that is to be born. And so we must ask ourselves the question, well, who is this woman? Who is this woman? Because there have been people in religion, some recalcitrant, in that they are obstinately defiant against the authority of the kingdom. And they hold to a particular view, saying the woman is this and the woman is that. Some say the woman is Mary. Some say the woman is the church. Some say otherwise. But I would like to suggest that we're dealing with not just one woman, but we're dealing with at least 3 women. And let me explain what I mean by that. No one can deny that Miriam, we call her Mary, had given birth to the Messiah. That happened in Israel. That's a fact. That's historically validated. That's empirical to the word. We know that. But is that the woman here spoken of that some people believe it is? So let's put Miriam or Mary as the biological woman. We're dealing with that because that's a fact. Then we have what I would say is the prophetic woman. Because it's clear that It was the woman, Israel, who gave birth to the Messiah. It was that prophetic woman. But I think that which we often miss and not too often cite is the celestial woman, which is Yah uses his celestial bodies to speak to us through language that we sometimes don't understand. And the word says that this woman, this celestial woman, we call in astronomy that is polluted by astrology, Virgo, the Virgin. And that's how Yah used that woman in the sky. He told us in Genesis 1 and verse 14 that he would speak to us in the seasons by the moon and by the sun and by the star. And therefore, it is our duty to try and understand exactly what he is saying. So we're dealing with a celestial woman, the biological woman, and the prophetic woman. That's what we're dealing with. It says the woman gave birth to this man-child, but the dragon was there, lay waiting, ambushing the woman as soon as she gave birth. And we know Satan used Herod, and Herod would seek to kill this child. And we see this play out quite often in various places, even through Roe v. Wade, how they seek to kill all the babies. We see that this is happening not only celestially, but it's happening here on the earth. Why? Because Colossians 2 tells us that which is up there throws a shadow on the earth. And so what you see on the earth is only a shadow of the war that is taking place in the heavenly places, because we fight not against flesh and blood, but we fight against principalities and powers and rulers in high places. That's what the word wants us to know. So this morning, we want to look at who is it? What body of people? What group of people? What people group represents the remnant seed refugees? Because we know throughout time, people have said, and sometimes foolishly, that their institution, their denomination is a remnant. Leaders have said it, and they have taught that and have deceived many. But this morning, we're going to take a look at that and see where we are. So we have this seed. Let's go now to Genesis chapter 3, and we will look at verse 15. Genesis chapter 3 in verse 15. The word here tells us that, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So that which you see in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15 is that which is playing out in Revelation chapter 12. Are you with me? The prophecy here in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15, when Adam and Eve had sinned, and decided how we would respond to that, he said there was going to be enmity between the serpent and between the woman's seed. And throughout the ages, that's been the conflict of the ages, manifesting itself using often human instrumentalities to do the bidding. We need to understand that. And so we have the enmity between the serpent and the woman. We have the devil himself. We have the woman. And then we have the serpent seed. And we have the woman's seed, who we know to be Yeshua. But Satan often uses other people to do his bidding. Join me here in Exodus chapter 1, and we will read verse 15 and 17. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shipra and Puah, when you were helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. And so you see how Satan subtly uses human instrumentality. And hear what he said, if you see, he's using again the port of the eye. If you see, kill him. That was Satan's attempt to make sure that this man child and this mediator, Moses, would not be born. He's trying to put aside and to thwart the plan of Yah to redeem and to save mankind. So the word here says that the man-child was caught up, referring to his ascension in Acts chapter 1, when the angel said to them, "O ye men of Galilee, why are you gazing? That same Yeshua that went out, he will come again." So he was caught up to meet him in the air, meet his Father. And so when Satan realized he could not do anything more, he then turned on the remnant of that seed. And that's what we want to look at this morning. So turn with me to Isaiah 54. Let's go to Isaiah 54. Book of Isaiah and chapter 54. And we will read verses 1 and 2. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear, break forth into singing, and cry aloud, that thou didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, said Yahweh. Did you get that? Isaiah here is dealing with the celestial woman. Cry, O barren woman. Cry. Because the barren woman is going to produce more children ultimately than all those who are married. More than Mary. Why? You have to go to Psalm 87 to really understand what is going on here. Psalm 87. Its foundation is in the holy mountains. Yahweh loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. honorable things are spoken of thee, O city of Elohim. I will make mention of Rahab, hear me, and Babylon. To them that know me, behold, Philistia and Tyre and Ethiopia, this man was born there. I understand what Yah is saying here, or what Korah, this is a psalm of Korah. Korah is saying that it doesn't matter where you're born. People beat their chest today and said, I was born in Israel and I was born a Jew. We're talking about who? We're talking about the Yah, or the people of Yah at the end time. The Yah, the Israel of Yah. That's what we're dealing with according to Galatians 6:16. It doesn't matter where you were born. He says that I will mention Rahab. Rahab was born where? In Jericho. We know that. And Babylon. People were born in Babylon. Abraham was born in Babylon. And Philistia. And Tyre, that's Lebanon, today's Lebanon. And Ethiopia, including Sudan. He said, people were born there. Listen to verse 5. And of Zion it shall be said, this and that man was born in her, and the highest himself shall establish her. Yah shall count when he writeth up the people, that this man was born there, as well as the singers as the players of instrument shall be there. All my springs are in thee. Song of Psalm for the song of Korah to the chief musician up in Mahaliath, Lenot. He said it doesn't matter when you're born, as long as you're born in Zion, you are a refugee waiting for citizenship of the kingdom. That's what this wants you to understand. So it's not the woman, the biological woman Israel. It's not even the prophetic woman Israel. It is the celestial woman that is really your mother. Hear me? And perhaps you're having problem with that. So come with me to Galatians chapter 4. Galatians chapter 4. And let's begin at verse 21. Well, let's start at verse 22. For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. But he of the free woman was a promise. We spoke about that this morning. Which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai bringing forth the bondage, which is Adar. For this Adar is Mount Sinai in Arabia and answers to Jerusalem. You didn't hear me. Paul wants you to know that Arabia, the covenant of Arabia, answers to what? The free woman. Jerusalem. Let's read it again. Which things are an allegory, for these are two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai bringing forth the bondage, which is Adar. For this Adar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answers to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. That's you and I. We're in bondage. I said we are refugees. Are you with me? Because we have not yet been given our status. We're refugees. We've applied through baptism in Yeshua. And we're waiting that pending application through the judgment, which is the 10th day of the 7th month, we call Yom Kippur. That's what we're waiting for, right? Verse 26, but Jerusalem, which is above, That's the city that Abraham looked for, and you and I are looking for it. But the city that is above is free, which is what? The mother of us all. That's the mother. That's the celestial mother I spoke about in Revelation chapter 12. That's what I want you to know, because we get all caught up in down here, the shadow that is cast down here, and we miss exactly what we ought to be looking for. And Paul wants you to know that the Jerusalem that is free, that is above, that's the mother of us all. And so when Revelation chapter 12 says that the woman gave birth, you know who is the mother now, don't you? That's the mother. But we sometimes misunderstand. Isaiah 26 and verse 17 tells us, and as a woman in labor, when near delivery, crieth in her pang, so have we been thy beloved. We're crying in pain now. Why? Because this woman, this celestial woman, is about to give birth to the children of Zion. That's why so many things are happening in the world. And we're crying over there. We're crying in Ethiopia. We're crying in Libya. We're crying in Sudan. We're crying in Britain. We're crying in America, because Yah is doing what? He's rounding up his people. And the woman, the celestial woman, Virgo, this constellation that comes into the air every season, she is trying to give birth to the remnant of the woman's seed. Are you with me? We need to understand that. But we also need to understand the issue relating to the judgment in all of this. And so come with me to Ezekiel Daniel chapter 8, I should say. Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. Because I think it has significance for us, not only to learn, but to unlearn. Chapter 8. And let's look at verse 10. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars of the ground and stamped upon it. That's what Revelation chapter 12 tells us, that his tail took 1/3 of those hosts and cast them to the ground. So we see the connection here between Revelation chapter 12 and Daniel chapter 8. Let's read on. Yet he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. We're dealing with Antiochus here, Antiochus Epiphanes in Daniel chapter 12, the little horn. But the little horn is a forerunner to he who is coming in Revelation chapter 12, if you understand that. Let's read it again. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and to him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an oath was given him against the daily sacrifices by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth. It cast down the what? The truth. Let me say that again. It cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one of the saints speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the hosts to be trodden underfoot? Verse 14. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now, I want to look at that with you, because this is a teaching that has carried on for a number of years, and some people have not gotten it, and some have misunderstood it. Clearly, there is a people group called the SDA, and they use this as a significant part of their doctrine. We call it the 2300-day prophecy. And many will tell you that it started in 457 BC, and it stretches all the way, you count 2300 days, which are 2300 years, and it comes to 1844, when the sanctuary was cleansed. And even more specific, they will tell you that it was on the 22nd of October, 1844, that they had thought that Yeshua would come, but instead of coming to the earth, he went to the sanctuary and he cleansed it. That's what they teach. But perhaps you ought to do what I did. Because if they speak not according to the word of Yah, Isaiah 8 and verse 20 said, there is no truth in them. There is no light. So over time, I've looked at this 2300-day prophecy, and in particularly the citation of October the 22nd, 1844. And the reason I looked at it in this way, because I knew that October 24th was late in the month. Late in the month. And we can do this now because we have technology that can help us. You can go to NASA and you know, a lot of these sites and get correct dates going back into history and then computate your result like I have done. And I looked at that and I said, the new moon, I got a calendar, an 1844 calendar, and I looked at it, and I realized that the new moon was on Sabbath the 14th in 1844. Let me say that again. The new moon was on Sabbath 14 coming into the 15 in 1844. Now, you don't have to be a scholar to do what I've done. If the new moon is on the 14th, then all you have to do, because the new moon, meaning that on this day, the 14th of September, 1844, what day is that? That's the Feast of Trumpets. That's the Feast of Trumpet. That's a Sabbath. This was a Sabbath, a double Sabbath. And we know 10 days after that is going to be what? The day of Yom Kippur. Are you with me? Remember, this group is teaching that the cleansing of the sanctuary was on October 22nd, 1844. I am saying to you, history and the word of Yah says that the cleansing of the sanctuary in 1844 was on the 23rd of September, 1844. Yom Kippur was on a Monday, the 23rd of September, 1844, which is the 10th day of Tishri. When you read Leviticus chapter 23, it says the 10th day of the 7th month. October 22nd was the 9th of Chesvan in 1844. And Chesvan is the 8th month of the year You cannot cleanse the sanctuary in the 8th month. The Leviticus 23 said it has to be done on the 10th day of the 7th month. What am I saying? I'm saying that idea, that notion, that teaching that it was done on the 22nd of October, you can go back and check it and see that it was in the month of Cheshvan. You see, when you stick with the Gregorian calendar, you get all messed up. But when you bring it back to the biblical calendar, you realize that the 22nd of October was the 9th day of Cheshvan in 1844. So Yeshua could not have come on that day. And even if he had come in that year, the people who were waiting for him would have missed him, because he would have come on the 22nd, the 23rd of September, and they were saying it's the 22nd of October. They would have missed him about a month. Are you with me? Almost a month. And so I wanted to make that point. And the point why these people group went with that, you have some Jewish people called the Korite Jews. They keep the feast or they keep Passover by way of the ripening of the barley. If the barley is not ripe, they are inclined to cancel Passover. So in that year, this group, the Korite Jew, they kept the Passover, or they kept Yom Kippur on the 22nd of October. And so the Adventist people followed their taking of it, which was wrong. They have later admitted that what they did was wrong. Are you with me? You don't wait until the barley is ripe. The word in Leviticus says Passover is on the 14th day of Nisan. Whether the barley is ripe or not, he says that's the day. What if you didn't plant any barley? And so we've got to examine all the truth and all the things that they have taught us, because as I have said, that, people are seeking an amnesty against truth. And deception is worse than persecution. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. The word here says in verse 5, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto Elohim, to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of Elohim, that she was fed. Now, there are many people who argue that the woman is a church. And so turn with me to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. I just want to pose a question, and for us to answer it in the privacy of our own minds. And we'll look at verse 12, where it reads, for us the body is one, and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one. One Yeshua. Did you get that? Let me say that again. There is one body, one church, one assembly, but that assembly has many members. Those many members corporately make up the one body. And the body is Yeshua because he's the head. So the body is connected to the head. So we may then, on the authority of the word of Yah, safely affirm that the man-child represents the one new man who is to rule nation with a rod of iron. That's Yeshua, the head, and the church, the assembly, is his body. Are you with me? So if the church is his body, how then is the church the woman? When we were told in Galatians 4 that New Jerusalem that Abraham is looking for, that will ascend after the millennium, that's the mother of us all. That's what the word says. So the woman fled. Remember, that celestial woman, she cast a shadow. So the church is really a shadow of greater things to come. Are you with me? Just like the temple that, or the tabernacle, I should say, that Moses built, it was physical, it was real, it was tangible, you could touch it. But the word said it was a shadow of greater things to come. So Revelation is letting us know now that that church that fled into the wilderness is really a shadow of the remnant of the seed. It was a forerunner to it. Let me explain. The word says, and the woman fled. Let's read it, verse 6, chapter 12. And the woman fled into the wilderness, and where she had placed, prepared of Elohim, that they should feed her there 2,060 days. Now understand, last week we talked about the church of Pergamos, didn't we? And when Constantine entered the church, and how the church morally and ethically declined over a period of time. That Constantine had brought in paganism and has synchronized it with some of the teachings that the apostles had, and basically diluted it. And the doctrine of Balaam was being taught there, even where Satan's seat is. And then the next church with what? Thyatira. And the teacher there, we're told, was Jezebel. So Jezebel was in the church teaching Balaam's doctrine. And thereafter we had the dead church, Sardis. Fell asleep. It had a name. That was a church, as we said, of the Reformation. And we asked the question last week, what indeed did they reform? Because they did not keep the Sabbath, the majority of them. They did not reform the Sabbath. And if you're going to reform, they should have gone all the way back to Ephesus, which was where what happened? The love was lost. Think of it this way. You are climbed the mountain, and let's assume Ephesus was this mountain. The higher up you go into the mountain, it's the purer the water is, the stream that you're drinking from. But as you come downstream, where people live, where animals are grazing, it may well be an animal may trip and fall into that stream. And by the time you get downstream to where Laodicea lives, the water is polluted. So it was with the doctrines. That's where we are today. The woman went into the wilderness by way of the persecution that was taking place in Europe, the Catholic Church, the Inquisition. She went in. But I don't want you to distinguish the woman, the church. Remember, this is a shadow from Israel, as many people do. We just read that the body is one, many members, one. But a lot of people distinguish the church from Israel because their eyes are on geographic Israel, whereas our eyes are in the heavenly Jerusalem, which is the mother of us all. We've got to understand that. And if your eyes are on the heavenly Jerusalem, then Israel and the church are one. So when the woman went into the wilderness, let's read it again, and verse 6, and for emphasis, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared for Elohim that she should be feed her there 1,260 days, 1,260 days. And most of us know that we're talking about what, from 538 to what? 1798, right? That's that period of time. We know that the church went into persecution. And there was war in heaven. We talked about that this morning. And the angels fought, and the dragon angel fought, and he was thrown out. He did not prevail. And so we really want to re-emphasize the point that Satan cannot gain a permanent victory over you. Anytime you are not feeling right or you're having what we call a bad day, there is no bad day because, when he made all the days, you said it was very good. You're having a bad experience then. Tomorrow morning, you wake up having prayed the night, you know that when you get up, he has mercies. They are new and fresh every day. So realize that Satan can't gain victory over you because he wears a diadem and you have a crown awaiting you. Understand that. And so the woman went into the place. And let's look at it. And the word says, the verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and the angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our Elohim and the power of the Messiah, for the accuser of the brethren is cast down. That's him. He's come down and he's accusing us. But watch how he does it. He works through humans' instrumentality, just like he borrowed the body of the serpent, which was a bird. And he used that to let Eve feel that a serpent was speaking to her. And that's what he's doing here. Right? He's using that which he has and working through, just like he worked through Nebuchadnezzar, just like he worked through Pharaoh and all the wicked people that are on the earth even today. He worked through them. But don't think that they are the ones you're fighting, because you're not fighting against flesh and blood. You're fighting against he who influences them. Principalities and powers in high places and rulers in this world. We've got to understand that. Otherwise, you jeopardize your refugee status, and you also, more so, you won't become citizen in the kingdom. Are you with me? So let's read on. And the word says in verse 11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. By the what? I told you we had a blood disease. You didn't believe me. You can only overcome him by the blood of the Lamb. No other blood. Don't let anybody play with your blood, because the life of the flesh is in the blood. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they love not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice ye, heaven, and he that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, that's us, and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has a short time. He's trying to do what? To deceive you and to destroy you. Why? Because he knows that his time is short. And the word says, and the woman was given 2 wings as an eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. Understand where I'm going with this. I said there was persecution started in Europe. I also said we must not clinically distinguish the church from Israel. We can do that geographically and get away with it. But when you're dealing with the celestial woman that we read about in Galatians 4, that she is the mother of all, that's the city that Abraham was looking for. That's the city that we ought to be looking for. And Galatians 3:29 said, if we be in Yeshua, then we are Abraham's seed. So if we are Abraham's seed, we must do exactly what Abraham did. And Abraham looked for a city that was not made by hand. So when I say Israel, I'm talking about Israel that is connected to the Jerusalem that is the free woman that is not of man. That's the Jerusalem that I'm talking about. So the woman, the shadow now, fled into the wilderness, running from the persecution of Europe. Where did she go? Well, let's ask the question another way. Those pilgrims, those Lollards, those Plymouth Brethren, those people from Holland and Switzerland and Britain and Germany, all those people who fled from Roman persecution, where did they come? Where did they go? Because the matter is being addressed in here. Where did they go? They didn't go to Australia. We know Australia was building up at that time. But the word says they went into where? Into the wilderness. They went to a sparsely populated place that is called the earth because it wasn't built up. And history tells us that they all came here. Some came on Mayflower and they came to America. Listen, let's go back there because I don't want you to miss it. And the woman were given 2 wings of an eagle. Isn't it interesting that America has a symbol, the bald eagle, as its symbol? And America was once what? A colony of Britain. So the woman, the shadow of her, fled from Britain and came to America, to the eagle. And how long? Where she was nourished for time and half a time, and from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. Now, you read that and you wonder what that is. The way you understand that is you go back to Revelation 17 and verse 15, because you are told that the waters that you saw, these are people. So the Satan threw people after these people to try and get them. But what does the word say? And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away in the flood. And the earth, America, took her in, helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make what? War with the remnant of her seed, which what? So hear me now, because you really need to understand it. The whole group of people, the huge Huguenots, the Seventh-day Baptists, the Lutherans, the Episcopalians, the C of E, all the people who ran away from persecution and came to this new land. Most of them were Sunday worshipers. I don't say that disrespectfully, but I'm stating an historical fact. So when they came here, the dragon, Satan, was wroth because they escaped him. They escaped him. But here is what we shouldn't miss. He's now more angry with whom? With those who keep the commandments of Yah and what? Have the testimony of Yeshua. Revelation 19:10 tells us that the testimony of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy. That you will understand the prophecies. You may well keep the commandments, but if you don't understand the spirit of prophecy, how they unfold, and use them to frame unfolding events, then you will miss out. So what John Yohanan is trying to tell you, that this dragon is not so much concerned about the other people, but he's particularly concerned about those who keep the commandments and to have the test. And when I say commandments, I mean the feast days as well. It's not enough to say you keep the Sabbath and you miss out on Passover and you miss out on Feast of Weeks, or you missed out on Sukkot and Shavuot. You missed out on Tabernacle or Yom Kippur. If you miss all those, you are in violation and you're doing violence to your own spirituality. Are you with me? Because remember, the subject is the remnant of her seed. So all the people who came here and did not reform all the way back to Ephesus, Satan doesn't care about that. He's concerned about those who keep their eyes on Messiah and follow the Lamb whichsoever he goeth. Are you with me? That's what concerns him. It is interesting, that when you read Genesis, turn with me there. Genesis 24. You read about a young lady by the name of Rebecca. You know the story very well, that Abraham was getting old and he wanted his son Isaac to get a wife. And he sent out his servant to find him a wife. And the word says that he went out with camels and he went out with resources to find a wife. Verse 9, chapter 24 of Genesis, that's Bereshit. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master and departed, for all the goods of his master were in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia and the city of Nahor, and he made his camels to kneel down without the city of the well. Interesting that this servant was able to get the camels to kneel. In some churches, you can't get the people to kneel and pray. But I just thought I'd mention that in passing. And he made his camel to kneel down without the city by a well of water at a time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Yahweh Elohim, my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day and show kindness unto me. And behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass that the damsel to whom, and he's praying this, he said, send me someone. And he said, verse 15, and it came to pass before he had done speaking that behold, Rebekah came out. She was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, and her pitcher was upon her shoulder, and the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin. Did you hear me? No man had known her. She's a virgin. It's the first time you see the word virgin mentioned in the word here, and it was Rebekah. And she was the daughter of Bethuel. Are you with me? And so she was the wife of the promised seed, Isaac. It's interesting when you read Isaiah, 7, the word here is Bethulah. That's the celestial woman, Bethulah and Bethuel. Interesting, as I read that there is some rabbinic Jews, they question Isaiah. So we better question the questioner. Come with me to Isaiah chapter 7 so we can question the questioner. Isaiah chapter 7. The word says, let's read verse 14. Well, let's read up a little bit more. Let's start at verse 11. Ask thee a sign of Yahweh by Elohim. Ask it either in depth or in the height above. Yahweh is telling the king Ahaz, ask for a sign. Ask for a sign. And notice what he says. Ask it either in depth or in height. Ask it either in the celestial or down here on the earth. Asking either in Jerusalem above or in Israel below or Mary below. Ask it. What was his response? But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt Yahweh. I'm not going to do that. And he said, hear ye now, O house of David, is it a small thing for you to weary men? But will ye weary my Elohim also? Therefore Yahweh himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Are you with me? The point I was making is that some text says a virgin. The scholars, rabbinical scholars, said it's not a virgin. The word is alma, meaning a young lady. So they don't want to give credence to the fact that there was a conception by the Holy Spirit which brought forth the Messiah, their Savior, whom they reject. They don't want that. So it's just like in Daniel chapter 9, they have put a ban on you reading Daniel chapter 9. Nobody, they said, let there be a curse on the fingers of those who read Daniel chapter 9, because Daniel chapter 9, from verse 24 to 27, talks about the Messiah coming. This is what they've done. So we see here Rebekah is this woman, earthly mother. Are you with me? And she gave birth to whom? She gave birth to Esau and Jacob. What was Jacob's name when he wrestled with the angel? Huh? Israel. So Rebecca, the first virgin mentioned in the Bible, is the mother of Israel. Are you with me? So she's now connected to that woman, that celestial woman we talked about in Galatians 4, that is free. Is free. And even though when she sent her son to who? Her brother, Laban, he tried to what? Put him in bondage, which is what the world is trying to do to us. Are you with me? Even now. So we've got to be very, very careful that we don't get confused. And so if we go to Genesis chapter 37, we will see that which we see in Revelation chapter 12 is also what Joseph had seen in Genesis chapter 37, 9 and 10. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11th star, because he is the 12th star, made obeisance to me, and he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down thyself to thee on earth? Oh, yes. So we're dealing with the woman here, Israel, the prophetic woman, and we're dealing with the biological woman. But what is of most importance to her is the celestial woman. You didn't hear me. Let me try again. Come with me to Revelation chapter 21. Let me say it another way. Revelation chapter 21. And let's look at verse 9. And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, full of 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy, what? Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from Elohim. Did you hear me? Paul says this Jerusalem is the celestial woman, the mother of us all. That's the Lamb's wife. That's what the word says. Having the splendor of Elohim, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even as jasper. We talked about jasper a couple of weeks ago, and the fact that this jasper is transparent, meaning that it's a diamond, clear as crystal, and at a wall great and high, and at 12 gates, and of the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So what are we dealing with? What are we dealing with? We're dealing with a woman that gave birth. A celestial woman. Virgo. But manifests because it casts a shadow, and that manifests itself in a human being called Mary, who gave birth to Yeshua. We can't ignore that. But if you focus on only what you see, you miss all that you should have seen by way of your mind. And so you have good reason now to come with me to Colossians chapter 2. Colossians chapter 2, and we're going to read verse 14, reading on. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances and was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the stake. And having spoiled principalities, did you hear me? And powers. He did what? He spoiled them. He made a show of them openly, triumphing over them. You know, I said Satan cannot have a permanent victory over you. That's why he wears a diadem and not a crown, right? Because Satan is already spoiled. Yeshua turfed him out. Michael did. And so he's angry with you. Why is he angry with you? Because you keep the feast days and you keep the rest of the commandment. He's angry with you. He's not angry with anybody else. That's what the word says. I can't make it any clearer than this. The Holy Spirit makes it thus clear that the woman was in the wilderness, and when the woman came out of the wilderness, Satan is now angry with the remnant of her seed. Why? Because they keep the commandments, including the feast days, and they have the testimony of Yeshua. What is that? Revelation 19:10. They understand the unfolding of prophecy. They have the gift of prophecy. That's what he's saying. Are you with me? Let's continue. I'm still in chapter 2 of Colossians. Verse 15 again. And having spoiled principalities and power, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Let no man therefore judge you, what? In meat, or in drink, or in respect of holy days, or the new moon. Understand, these people here, the Colossians, were new converts, and they were being mocked by their former friends. And Paul is letting them know, because they were now behaving like people from Judah. They were born in Zion, and they were keeping the principles of Zion. And so people are mocking. So Paul is saying, let no man therefore judge you. No, don't let them judge you by meat or drink or in respect of holy days. These are the feast days. Don't let them judge you in regards to them, or the new moon, which starts the month, or in a Sabbath day. Nobody can judge you. Why? Which are a shadow. All these things are a shadow to come, but the body of Yeshua. The shadow is the body of Yeshua, but the body of Yeshua is telling you, we're not going to do them. These are a shadow of greater things to come, but they have been cast down onto the body of Yeshua. Which is the body of Yeshua? We just read that in Corinthians chapter 12, that is one body but many members. So some of the members are saying, we're not going to keep these. Isn't that strange? So when the body, well, the Bible teaches very clearly that when the body is disconnected from the head, who is Yeshua, it's dead. It's the church of Sardis. The body is dead. So I think people should be clear now whether they belong to that group of people, the remnant refugees who are waiting the evaluation of their application for citizenship, or whether or not they are with the other group, those asylum seekers. But while asylum seeking, they reject the laws of the land. You come to America and you apply for citizenship, and they interview you and they ask you questions regarding the law, and you tell them that you're not going to keep the law. Do you think they would give you citizenship? So the question is, are you a refugee or simply an asylum seeker who wants to come into the kingdom to do your own thing? Let me close on this. Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22. Because this will give us thoughts for concern. Matthew 22, and the word says that this king made a banquet for his son. And Yeshua answered and spake unto them again, saying, in parables, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a certain king who made a marriage for his son. We just show you what the bride looks like in Revelation chapter 21 and verse 9. All right. And sent forth for his servants to call them, that they were bidden to the wedding and would not come. Right? He's inviting all of us to his wedding. By faith, we attend. Remember in John chapter 3, Yohanan chapter 3, when he went to that marriage supper that at Canaan, and his mother called him to make some wine, he reminded his mother, Mother, this is not my time yet. Well, here's his time. And he sent forth his servant, that's you and I. Again, he sent forth servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light work of it, even as they do now with the feast days and the Sabbath. They made what? Light work of it. Hear me. One to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants and entreated them spitefully and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was furious. And he sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers and burned up their city. Then said he to his servant, the wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, and to the marriage, bid them to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all, as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man who had not on the wedding garment. He saw, let's read it contemporarily. He saw an asylum seeker whose application had been evaluated and was denied a visa. That's who he saw. Why? Because this man had no respect for the laws of the land, did not keep the feast day, did not keep the Sabbath, and did not respect the Creator. So what was the king's response? And he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in this place, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. What will you say to him when he asks you on the day he returns, why did you not keep my Sabbath? Why did you not keep my Passover? Why did you not keep the Feast of Weeks, the day of Pentecost? Even when I had told the disciple to go into the upper room and prepare themselves so they can keep it, did you not read that? That after my ascension, just before I ascended, I told 120 of them to go into the upper room. They met there, and after a few days, 10 days, the Ruach HaKodesh came down, and they kept the feast of Pentecost. Why did you not keep it? You've been teaching and telling people that these things are done away with them. On whose authority? Constantine? You had not kept the tabernacle. You have not kept Yom Kippur. And you teach other people that I was coming back on the 22nd of October. Did you not read? Did you not study that the Day of Atonement on that day was the 23rd of September? Did you not read that? And so you can see why the dragon is wroth with the remnant of her seed. These refugees. Why? Because they keep the commandments of Yah, and they understand the unfolding of prophecy, the testimony of Yeshua. That's what make the dragon angry. So may we understand this, and may we come out of those places that have maligned the truth, that have kept it back from unfolding onto you, and you have become recalcitrant, intransigent, unwilling to change, inability to incorporate any other ideas except that which comes out of your institution. Let us, because we have ears, let us hear what the Spirit of Yah, the Ruach HaKodesh said. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.